Hi, everyone. This is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and today we are going to open up the first of a two-part series on the Sun square to Uranus, which we will do before we look at the new moon in Leo that's coming through this weekend. So today and tomorrow, we're going to look at Sun square Uranus. Friday, we're going to look at the new moon in Leo, which is also square Uranus. So today and tomorrow, we'll do a two-part series. And what I want to do today is kind of usher in this new series, storytelling series. And I'm going to tell you Sun Uranus stories today. Some of them that occurred during the Uranus and Aries square to the Sun in Cancer in my birth chart. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm also very excited to announce that our storytelling series is ready to launch. So if you have a story of your own of any kind that is related to astrological transits, then you can share them either in the chat box of the YouTube channel, which we really appreciate because I think it helps boost the visibility of the channel if people share stories and comment and use hashtags and things like that. But also, it's easier for us to archive them in a roundabout way. It's hard to explain, but so the second way that you can do it, if you prefer not to leave your story in the chat box of the YouTube section, is you can, so if you're going to put it in the chat box section, put hashtag grabbed, the grahas, the planets, they were called grabbers. So we're calling this series grabbed by the planets. Put hashtag grabbed, put the type of aspect that you are going to tell us about. Say it was Sun square Uranus, put hashtag grabbed, and then before you tell your story, put the aspect Sun square Uranus, and you could use the signs if you want to. So Sun in Leo squared Uranus and Taurus or whatever. Then tell your story. Make sure you don't mind if we read it or share it with others. If you use that hashtag, it's fair game for us to include it in a future episode, storytelling episode. Or you can now email us if you prefer to have a little bit more privacy. You can email us. The email address is grabbed@nightlightastrology.com. So that's a fun email. It's a fun email address. So if you want to share it that way, just know that we will not respond to your email. We're just taking it in and putting it into an archive. We will be launching this officially in terms of like doing episodes where we share your stories, probably next week. Maybe a little bit tomorrow, potentially, if I have some. I already have some good ones for Mercury square Uranus that I might share, but that's the gist of it. So grabbed at nightlightastrology.com or hashtag grabbed in the comments section. I'm going to share some of my own stories from Sun Uranus, which is perfecting in the next couple of days. But first, let me pop it up on the real-time clock and give you a look. So the transit is happening between now and Friday. And that would be Friday, August 6th. And you can see, let me just, the outer planets, put them back in. So you can see right here that the Sun at 12 degrees Leo is moving through the square to Uranus at 14 degrees. Mercury just went through it yesterday. Did a video on that. And you're going to see there is the Sun by Friday, August 6th into Saturday, August 7th. Moving through the square to Uranus. Okay, so tomorrow we'll break down this archetypal combination a little bit more abstractly. Today, I wanted to start with some storytelling. So I've got 10 stories from the transit of Uranus to the Sun in my birth chart that I want to share you that really are that demonstrate the archetypal combination of the planets. So you've got the Sun, often relates to our sense of life purpose, ambition, sense of something that gives us a coherent sense of meaning based on the actions we're taking with our lives, the things we're trying to become. There is, the Sun contains within it a sense of the ideal image toward which our life is trying to move toward. We're all things are kind of conspiring to move us toward this soul seed image that the Sun is often representing in the birth chart. It can also represent fame, authority figures, fathers, any kind of wisdom or source of knowledge or illumination, clarity, sunlight, as in wisdom and enlightenment. Now, Uranus God of revolution, breakthroughs, sudden emancipation, liberation, inventiveness, defiance, rebelliousness, sudden disruptive events. Okay, so here's my 10 stories. Here's how I got grabbed by the planets, by Uranus and the sun during this time. The first one that I remember that when I sat down to make this list today was the sound of my father's voice on the telephone when he called to tell me that my grandfather had passed away. It was a sound of grief, but much more than it was grieving. It was a moment of very deep liberation. Like, and I don't say that with any offense to my grandfather, because I loved him, but my grandfather was a really difficult man. And, he was an alcoholic when my dad grew up. He was abusive. He was a war veteran, and eventually kind of quit drinking cold turkey and became kind of like a born again Christian. So he's kind of I don't know if the phrase is still used, a dry drunk. That was the phrase that I heard growing up. So I apologize if that's like no longer PC or whatever, but that was what he was like. So even though he became a better person as he aged, when he finally passed, it was a long time too that he passed. It took a long time for him to pass. There was a lot of like caretaking in the end. But my father's voice was like pure relief and release. There was grief, there was sorrow, but there was also like, oh my God, this lightning. It was like a lightning strike and a lightening, literally. So that's my first story. The second one was, and these are in no particular order. The second one was finding bhakti yoga. I actually found a teacher during this time, and also a guru during this time. I'll get to that in a minute. That's another one on my list. But finding bhakti yoga, it was a form of yoga that appeared in my life sort of randomly. And it just was the feeling of like someone putting a really bright light like in the center of my body, and just whoa, like, whoa, I love this. This is something I already know. And this is something that I feel like I've connected to in past lives or something. It was just such an illuminating effect. So that's number 2 for me, was finding the form of yoga that was really created a kind of spiritual breakthrough for me personally. But again, it was this very similar feeling of like the illumination, the suddenness, the brightness, the excitement, the feeling of a breakthrough, like the clouds bursting or something. Third one, having my second daughter. Now, this is weird because basically my first daughter was like all Saturn. For me, there was this feeling of this is really hard. My freedom is suddenly limited. I love my daughter. She's like, this beautiful soul that's come into my life, but the amount of responsibility and the shock, the ego death, oh my God, it was really hard for me personally. Number 2 was different. Not in terms of how I feel about them, but just the second experience, being a father 2 times, like now it's number 2. So when that happened, it was this feeling of being free from youthful idealism. I can't explain it, but it was like when I held my second daughter and I was like, I'm a dad, like I'm like a full-on dad now. I've got 2 little girls, Then it was just this feeling of like, what a relief that I can put away so many like idle uses of my time. Like when I talk to people who don't have kids, no offense to any of you out there, and they're like, oh, I wish I had more time for this or that, and I'm like, you have plenty of time. You don't know what you know what I mean? Like, I'm just playing, but this feeling of like, there's something about this second child coming into my life, my daughter Summer, that just made me realize I could set aside so many things that were like all the things I thought I was going to do and become that I just couldn't anymore if I was going to be a good dad. And it was actually felt like a huge burden being relieved again. So this weird feeling of like, Uranus will deliver freedom in lots of weird ways, the feeling of liberation in lots of weird ways. And for me, one of them was my second daughter being born and the feeling of being free from this weird kind of youthful idealism, but feeling like legitimately free, and also not feeling trapped or stuck or being pulled in the direction of freedom and youth and responsibility and fatherhood. And it was just like, boom, second daughter came in and I was fully committed and feeling very free about it. Hellenistic astrology came into my life on the early part of the Uranus application to the sun in my chart. It was pretty early on, but as it perfected, I developed a little bit of a closer relationship with Robert Schmidt from Project Hindsight, who was one of the progenitors of Hellenistic astrology in the modern era. So that was a huge breakthrough for me, finding his teachings and listening to his lectures. I had two different gurus appear in the Bhakti tradition. That's number 5. This is a funny one, number 6. So gurus obviously being very illuminating figures that set us free from the bondage of karma, little, obviously little by little, but the finding really good teachers and really good channels of spiritual wisdom and integrity help set us free. It can be a very Sun-Uranus dynamic. Number 6, I was at a baseball game. I think I might have told this story before on my channel. I'm not sure, but I was at a baseball game and I was by myself. I like to go to I love going to baseball games and movies by myself. Not restaurants so much. I don't know why, but baseball games and movies. Anyway, so I'm at the baseball game by myself and I was journaling or something like that. And I ended up having some iced tea. And then I ended up having another one and then another one. And it was a long game. It was like 1 into extra innings or something. And so I ended up having like 4 iced teas. And for some reason, because when I'm at home, I don't drink caffeinated tea. I always am drinking like herbal tea. And I just totally spaced on the fact that like iced tea has caffeine in it. I don't know why, because it's a stupid, of course it does, right? But so anyway, I got home from the game. And as I was like leaving the game, I realized that I was like high. I was like, like a kid drinking or like a 6-year-old drinking a 2-liter of Mountain Dew or something. Like I was over the moon, right? And so it was like a manic episode that lasted until morning. I couldn't sleep a wink. But during that night, I realized that I wanted to start therapy. Saying it like that's funny. But I realized that I wanted to start therapy with a Jungian. I'd always wanted to have Jungian therapy in my life. So I did. I just started therapy with a Jungian. One of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. So another mentor appeared because of this crazy kind of electrical manic experience. Very Uranus sun. And it wasn't because I sat there all night freaking out, like visiting my demons. I was just up all night. I had a lot to think about. And I was like, I think I want to talk to someone regularly, because I'm talking to people like all the time as an astrologer, but I haven't really seen someone consistently for myself. That was the main thing that came through. It was very illuminating though. Number 7, realizing that I didn't really want to be involved with the yoga studio anymore. It was a burden and I really just wanted to focus on astrology. Eventually during a Uranus approach of a Uranus transit to my wife's sun and moon, she had the same realization. We ended up closing the yoga studio. Freedom, liberating insights. Number 8, at the early part of the Uranus sun dynamic, I had the realization that the only reason I hadn't ever started a YouTube channel is because I'm scared of being on camera in front of people. Now, you might not think that. You'd be like, oh, you seem really comfortable in front of the camera or whatever. But actually, I'm really comfortable when it comes to teaching classes, like within the curriculum, my slides. I've got like my Capricorn moon is very comfortable with that, but when it came to like just being like a podcast personality and doing things a little bit more off the cuff and creating content, I liked the control. For my whole career, I was a written blog. I was writing all of my blogs. So my daily content was all written. And I realized that the only reason I wasn't starting a new YouTube channel was that I was scared of being on the camera with this particular kind of medium. So I just decided to do it, and voila, lightning struck, and I found out that I could do it, and it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. Number 9, I launched my horary practice. I suddenly realized that I'm ready to do horary for other people for a fee. I'd been practicing horary by donation for maybe 3, 4, 5 years, something like that. I'd have to look back at the dates and everything, but it was a number of years. And I realized all of a sudden I'm ready to offer this to other people, breakthrough in my horary practice. Last but not least, during all of this time, I ended up, after my first daughter was born, I had gained weight. I was pretty depressed, honestly, because of the lack of sleep. She was really colicky. She screamed, I feel like probably 60 to 70% of the time that she was awake for like her first year of life. During that year, I gained about 30 pounds. So Uranus comes through to the sun. I lost that 30 pounds. And I also decided to get completely sober. Like at that point, ayahuasca had really put me on a path of sobriety, as had yoga. But occasionally I would have a drink. Occasionally I might have some caffeine, like, stuff like that. And I realized during this time, as I was losing weight and getting healthy again, that for me, it was just a no-go. Like these things they weren't helpers in my life. So caffeine, alcohol, especially, were gone. So those were all of my Sun Uranus moments. I thought you guys might like to hear those, hear those stories. If you have a story, we will talk more about the archetypal combination tomorrow from a slightly more studious place. But part one, I just wanted to share some stories. So if you have stories, put hashtag grabbed in the comments section, share your story. Make sure you put Sun Uranus there if you're experiencing it this week, or Mercury Uranus if you experienced that already this week. Anything you've got to share, we'd love to use. If you want to email it, you can do that instead, grabbed@nightlightastrology.com. All right, that's what I've got for today. We will see you again for more Sun Uranus dynamism tomorrow. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.